In this video, I'm going to teach you how to network as an introvert. Now, networking is one of the most important things that you can do as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And so I want to teach you guys a little bit about how the networking process works and how you can overcome some of those fears and that anxiety and that overwhelm that you might associate with networking. I know most people that I know, they don't enjoy networking. As I've journeyed in business, I've learned that networking is one of the absolute most important things that you can do as a business owner. You need to be able to get out there and meet other business people and meet potential clients and do all these things. So I'm going to share kind of my experience with networking events and how I've augmented that experience in order to maximize what I'm doing at these events. And then I'm also going to give you some tips on how you can also maximize your time at the events. First of all, just think of networking as a whole, right? If there is a networking event announced, most of the time, like the people that are going to these events are like, oh, well, I'm going to go to the event to see if I can get some clients, right? So they have two things in mind. Number one, they need to talk to everybody they can possibly find at this event because that's just what people think of networking as. And secondly, they're like, I wonder how many of these people I could sell my product to, right? That's like your typical networking event. And that's why I actually avoid typical networking events. So I've gotten creative with my networking because that is not my intention when I go to these events. When I go to networking events, it is genuinely to meet people and to see if I can provide some value to their life. So I come in with a desire to give rather than to receive or take something. So changing your perspective, changing your paradigm of even like what networking is and how you should be showing up to these events is a game changer. That's step number one, right? And then also remembering that everybody is there to like meet people. You could be absolutely terrified to talk to people, but if you go to a networking event, people are going to be happy to talk to you. It doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what kind of company you have or what kind of business you have. You go to these events and you just start saying hello to people. And so they're naturally going to continue the conversation. They're going to ask you about what you do. You're going to ask them about what they do. And so that's just kind of the flow of this conversation. But I would say there's a couple tips that I can give you in order to maximize that experience. So if you're just going to a regular networking event, that's a good place to start. But think about it like this. You go in there, you need to get their name and you need to understand what kind of business they're in. That's step number two. And then step number three is finding a way to provide value to them. So you should be able to do this within about 30 to 60 seconds. Hey, my name is Austin. I wanted to come over here and introduce myself. What do you do? They tell you, hey, actually I own a manufacturing company that creates skis, a ski manufacturer or something like that, right? And so all of a sudden you remember, you're like, oh, actually I went to this networking event a year ago and I met this guy that owns a ski shop and he's always looking for ski manufacturers that he can partner with, right? That's a very niche example, but at the same time, that's how it works. That's why you go to networking events. Like you go and you meet somebody and just put them in your mental Rolodex. Okay, this guy manufactures skis. So if in 6 months or a year later or 2 years later, you're at a networking event and you're like, I want to get some custom skis made. I wish I knew somebody that made skis. You're like, wait a minute, like I know this person and I can connect them. So see how much value you just provided? You're kind of like the conduit to all of this. They need you in the middle in order to connect the dots, right? And so as you continue going to more networking events, you start finding more ways to add value to more people. That's one way. Another way you can add value to somebody is maybe there's some information that they need or some sort of service that they need and you can give them that service, right? Again, that's why people go to these events. So let's say they say that their marketing sucks, but you know how to do marketing. So you're like, okay, I can actually do that for you. And you know what? Since I met you here, you seem like a really cool person. I can give you a special price on it for the first 3 months, right? And then they can do full price. So that right there, you're providing value to them. You're solving a problem for them. So it's a very, very good skill, but it's also at the same time very finesse. And you have to like develop this ability to get somebody's name, remember obviously what they look like, secondly what their business is, and then thirdly, like when you're adding value, it's mostly identifying where their biggest pain point is. Maybe their biggest pain point is that they have a nonprofit and they need to raise more money, and you know people who could potentially be sponsors or donors or whatever, and so you're kind of connecting the dots here. So that's your primary objective, right? It's only 3 steps, very, very simple. And then naturally, of course, they're going to reciprocate and ask you. They're like, oh, so what do you do actually? Like, thank you so much for that. Like, they're very appreciative. That's kind of the basics, right? Now, I've augmented this experience for myself by being super targeted with the events that I go to, because if I just go to a general event, the likelihood of somebody being interesting there for me to talk to, granted, all people are interesting in their own way, and I mean interesting in a business sense, right? If this could potentially be a business partner for me, or somebody that I can provide value to, I'm looking for higher level events, or events that are very specifically focused on one thing. So for example, if I wanted to connect with people who are in wealth management, I would go to a wealth management conference, right? Or an investors conference, and I would go talk to these people, because those are the people that I want to connect to. So now all of a sudden my chances of meeting somebody that would be a good connection for me are like double or triple or maybe even 10x, right? Because there's a lot of people there that are specifically focused on the things that I'm interested in. So these are interesting people to me. Even when you're going to these events, now these events are a little bit different. It might not be a networking event. Let's just say it's a investment education conference. You attend this conference, and what you can easily do as an introvert, I'm not saying you have to go up to everybody. As an introvert, you can do a couple simple things in order to meet just a couple people. You don't have to meet everybody. Make it a goal to meet, let's say, 3 people or 5 people. It's very simple. When you go into the conference, you're probably going to be sitting classroom style. You sit down, you have one person to your left and you have one person to your right. Say hello to those people. Introduce yourself and do your 3 things. Number 1, what is their name? Number 2, what is their business? Number 3, what is a potential problem that you can help them solve? But again, don't come at this asking them what their problem is. Like, hey, what are some ways that I can add value to you? That doesn't add value to anybody. You should ask them what they're doing, and then yourself think critically a little bit and think about what you could do to help them. So that's one thing. So that's 2 people right there. I mean, if your goal is 3 people, you just got to meet one person. They probably have a coffee station somewhere. Just walk up to the coffee station. As you're getting coffee, it's likely that somebody else is also going to be getting coffee. Make a comment about the coffee. Make a comment about their outfit if you like it, right? So if you don't like it, don't make a comment, but you know what I mean. So talk to that one person. That's your 3rd person right there. You don't have to meet everybody, you know, and then if it's a multiple day conference, sit somewhere new on the 2nd day and meet 2 more people. There you go. You hit your goal of 5 people. It's better to have a strong rapport and a better connection with these 5 people than it is to meet 50 people and not really get to know anybody, because truthfully, you're not really going to be able to remember more than like 5 to 10 people anyways. And especially if you do 1 conference a month, 2 conferences a month, that's a lot of people. If you meet 5 people at each one, that's already a huge shortcut to building a very large network, you know, in whatever industry you're interested in. So anyways, that's what I would do. You know, I think that introverts can definitely still network. You just have to learn how to be a little bit extroverted in certain points of the day, right? So you attend this conference, you talk to a couple people, and you can go back to being introverted. It doesn't have to be that scary or overwhelming. Just take it step by step and follow those 3 steps that I outlined in this video. Make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.